My ex texts me at like midnight that he didn't love me and he didn't want to be married anymore. It's story time on how yours truly got put on child support. And I'm going to have to rewind you guys back and give you guys the full tea, because it's a lot of shit I'm going to have to tell y'all so you can get the full picture. Let's rewind this back to 19. When I'm 19 years old and I get pregnant by my boyfriend at the time, who later becomes my husband, probably a week after I give birth to Mia, our eldest, that's when we decide to get married. We went to go live with him in Fayetteville, North Carolina, because he is retired Army. Fast forward, you don't need to know all the years in between. That's going to be too much. But I want to give you guys a lowdown that I was a teen mom. Give you guys the full story. So after becoming a teen mom and getting married, we fast forward a few years to when we moved to Washington State. He's still in the Army at the time. I get pregnant with our second daughter very quickly after getting off birth control. During my pregnancy, my ex-husband cheats on me. It was very traumatic experience. Very traumatic experience. This is embedded in my memory that one night we were all hanging out. Her husband was gone on some kind of army thing for a year. So they used to be like our couple friend. And I really don't even know how we met, because our husbands at the time never worked together. And while he's gone, she cheats, or she has sex with my husband, and they do the thing. It's just to set the stage for what is to come in the marriage. And I just remember one night that we were all hanging out, sans her husband, because her husband was gone. And my husband wanted to stay. And I was like, I didn't understand why. His friend was in town, and his friend and I were going back to the house. But he wanted to stay. And I was like begging my husband to come home. So we have two kids, or one kid and one on the way. And why do we need to do this? It was traumatizing night. I know how I found out my husband was cheating. One of our other couple friends, the wife stopped by my house, and she told me. And that's how I found out my husband was cheating, by somebody else. Because I guess the husbands talked because they worked together, you know. So anyway, that's how I found out my husband was cheating. I used to stand in our bedroom window, and we had a two-story house, so on the second level was our bedroom. I used to stand and watch him from our bedroom window get in that girl's car and leave for the day while I was pregnant, and I had our other child at home. Yay. Fun times. So fast forward, our marriage doesn't work out, and we end up getting a divorce. More time on that, because the way I found out we were getting a divorce was via text message. It was one night, late at night. It was about midnight, 11 o'clock midnight, something like that. The girls have had tummy issues. Isabel is about 3 then, and she's our youngest. And then Mia, our oldest, was 2 years older, so she would have been about 5 then. So they have stomach issues. I'm up all night because they have the tummy bug. They're pooping, they're peeing, they're throwing up. I have to change sheets. I have to give them baths. I have to clean myself up. I have a dog at the time too. So he's just like up and down also with me, because he was like my little shadow. My ex texts me at like midnight that he didn't love me and he didn't want to be married anymore. And I was distraught. I was already having an emotionally and physically draining night. He didn't even care, because he never called me before to see how my night was going. So that's how I found out we were getting a divorce. He texted me that he didn't love me and he wanted to end our marriage. Son of a gun, didn't even have the guts to tell me to my face. Never actually ever told me to my face, just said he never loved me and he wanted to get a divorce on the text. He comes home, he grabs his stuff, he moves out. We're on our way to divorcing. The girls and I go to live with my sister after our divorce is final, because the house that we lived in Kentucky was his. And honestly, I needed to be close to my family because I was like, how the heck am I even going to do this? I used to be a stay-at-home mom. So I go to live with my sister with the girls. They have their own room. I have my own room because my sister has a 3-bedroom house. We do that for about a year. I finally get on my feet and get a job being a leasing agent at a local property complex in Cullowhee, North Carolina. Girls and I go and we get our own house, the 3 of us. A small little old little house. We lived there for about a year. Then when my lease is almost up, I decide that I want to move to Raleigh, North Carolina. Like, I got to be in the city life. City life is for your girl. We'll figure it out. We'd be way closer to my ex-husband, who we did halfway points. We met halfway to get the girls. After being there for a year in Raleigh, I decide, like, I need to go back to college. None of these jobs that I'm looking for and the one that I was working in property management are paying much money. I'm struggling. Even with the child support that I was getting, I was struggling to pay the bills. That wasn't any kind of life for my kids. They didn't get to go on fun things when they were with me. They only got to do that stuff with their dad because he made more money than me. Back to Cullowhee, North Carolina, and I live with my parents with my girls, and I go to school. I had previously went to University of Phoenix, so I only really need to go to Western Carolina for like 2 years. Do my 2 years, graduate. We're moving back to Raleigh, North Carolina, me and the girls. Anya decides that she really wants to go live with her dad. After me getting this 3-bedroom apartment for the 3 of us to live in, so they would each have their own room because they've never had their own room. They've always had to share. We're moving back. Mia goes to live with her dad. I really didn't like that idea because he has a lot of trauma from his childhood, which is a whole nother story. He was adopted, and he grew up in third world country. He lived in an orphanage. Then when he was adopted by an affluent white couple, they treated him like a second-class citizen in his own home. So he has a lot of trauma from all of that, which anybody would. It's understandable. And he never really dealt with that, but Mia really was dead set on wanting to live with him, and after trying to fight it for a while, I was like, fine, this is not going to work. My ex-husband is very controlling. Well, he was making my life a living hell. Isabel stays with me. She's a mama's girl. Mia goes to live with her dad. All is well. He no longer has to pay me child support because we each have a kid. We just call it even Steven. Then probably, maybe not even a full year to Izzy living with me, I am just like, I feel so guilty, like splitting the girls up. They're full-blood sisters. They should live together. They should be close. I have sisters. So I was close to my sisters growing up, and we always played together with our friends. I make up a story that I can't afford for Izzy to live with me anymore. Honestly, I just thought I was doing the best thing I could do at the time. You know, it's really hard, and no one wants to make any of these decisions. At some point, they have to be made, and they're just the toughest. Izzy goes to live with her dad, and when she does that, my ex is dead set that I have to pay him child support because he paid me child support, even though he makes more money than me. I'm like, okay, fine. I will figure out how I can give you some money. How much do you want? You know, it's basically bargaining with the devil. And she says, $400. Mind you, sometimes when the girls were with me, he would pay me at the end of the month, and it would put me in such a bind. But, like, God forbid I ever do that because I got paid every 2 weeks, and I just happened to have to pay whenever I could. So much fighting because I don't pay him on the right day that he wants to be paid on. So it's like, whatever. I can't deal with this. I just want peace in my life. Like, as long as I have to owe this man money and I have to pay him the way that he wants to be paid, and I'm not meeting his standards, I'm going to be in turmoil, and I'm never going to have peace. I decide I'm going to go through the state of North Carolina, and I'm just going to pay whatever they say, and it's going to come out of my check, and I'm just going to do that way. Little did I know, I was going from $400 a month in child support to $800 a month in child support, and I was like barely affording $400. I somehow decide that, or I somehow make that work. I had to work 2 jobs where one job wouldn't take the child support, wouldn't be accounted into my income because I already had it calculated. So I just got random jobs in between the times that it would get calculated. And then when Mia graduated, our oldest, a few years back, I went to court to get it reduced, $300 off, so I was paying $500 for the last few years until Izzy just graduated. It's a story time on how I got divorced and how I got put on child support. At some point, we have to allow people to share their story. And I was very scared to share this part of my life with you guys because I was never called a piece of shit, because the people that really knew me knew my story, and that anybody that ever asked me about it, like, I would tell them and they were just flabbergasted about like the events, and they just couldn't believe that this would be my life, and I never believed this would be my life. And when the girls went to go live with their dad, I went through hell. I put myself through hell. I was depressed. I talked poorly to myself. I ate poorly. I didn't exercise. I thought that I was this terrible person for being a mom that didn't have her kids. It was the worst feelings in the world. Somehow I pulled myself through that time of my life, and I'm doing so much better.